What a man truly desires when he recognizes you as his twin flame is not determined by how he behaves outwardly, but by something much deeper unfolding within him. Some men pull away, others try to remain close. Some become silent, while others express intense emotion. Yet all of them, without exception, experience the same inner process. For the masculine, recognizing a twin flame is not simply a romantic moment. It is a psychological shock. It is a spiritual disruption. It marks the beginning of the breakdown of the ego he spent his entire life protecting. This is why some resist the connection. Others move forward too quickly. Some become trapped between coming closer and stepping back. And some genuinely try to love you but struggle to sustain their own vulnerability. However, there is something rarely discussed. A masculine desire during a twin flame awakening functions through 5 layers that challenge nearly everything you have learned about relationships. When you understand these layers, you stop trying to win him over and begin focusing on the only approach that truly works. In this video, I will reveal 5 important truths about what he genuinely wants. And if you stay until the end, you will understand why everything you have tried so far may not have worked, and what you truly need to do moving forward. But first, you must understand why the masculine reacts so differently to twin flame recognition, and why this creates a dynamic that can appear harsh, yet is actually necessary. The masculine psyche was not formed in the same way as the feminine. While the feminine is naturally receptive to emotional depth and connections that move beyond logic, the masculine has been conditioned for thousands of years to function in the opposite direction. His identity was built upon pillars such as autonomy, control, rational thinking, and strength. When he encounters his twin flame, all of these pillars begin to shake at the same time. For the masculine, the twin flame encounter is not primarily romantic. It is an existential experience. It can feel as though he looks at you and instantly senses that this connection has the power to dismantle the identity he has spent his entire life constructing. And that realization frightens a deep part of him, even though another part of him may already feel completely surrendered. This internal split is what creates the contradictory behavior you often observe. He may move closer and then suddenly pull away. He might express deep love and then become distant or cold. He may acknowledge the connection verbally, yet behave as though it does not exist. Psychologist Carl Jung explained that the masculine carries what he called the anima, the inner feminine counterpart that remains unconscious for most men. When a man meets his twin flame, this anima can be activated with such intensity that he is forced to confront emotional and spiritual parts of himself that he has long ignored or suppressed. Because the masculine ego is strongly tied to strength and control, it often interprets this activation as weakness, as a loss of identity, or even as danger. The resistance he displays does not mean the connection is unreal. In fact, it often indicates the opposite. The stronger the resistance, the deeper the recognition may be. The deeper the connection feels, the greater the fear becomes. The more it threatens to transform him, the more he tries to defend himself against it. Every attempt you make to prove the validity of the connection or persuade him to surrender can unintentionally strengthen this defense. To his ego, it can feel like confirmation that he is losing control. What you need to understand is that masculine desire during a twin flame awakening works through several layers that often contradict each other. Consciously, he may genuinely believe he does not want the connection. He might feel that it would be easier to continue with relationships that are simpler and easier to control. But at deeper unconscious levels, he may desire exactly what he fears the most. He wants to be fully seen, He wants to surrender to the intensity. He wants to experience a form of love that dissolves every defense. The difficulty is that he does not know how to allow this without feeling as though part of him is dying in the process. The first desire the masculine experiences when he recognizes his twin flame is not surrender to the connection. In fact, it is the opposite. He feels a strong urge to prove to himself that he does not actually need the connection. This response is not necessarily immature or unhealthy. It is an archetypal reaction deeply rooted in the masculine psyche, one that serves a specific psychological function. For centuries, the masculine identity has been shaped around autonomy, strength, and the belief that a man should not need anyone in order to survive or succeed. When he meets his twin flame and feels that overwhelming intensity, an awareness that seems to vibrate through every part of him, the first reaction is often panic. Panic arises because he senses that he may be losing control and becoming vulnerable in a way he has never experienced before. While the feminine often moves toward the connection and accepts it as something natural, the masculine can experience this recognition as a threat to his ego structure. It can feel as though an inner voice is saying, "If I need this person to feel complete, then I am not strong enough on my own." And that belief conflicts with everything the masculine identity has been taught to value. So in that first stage, what he truly seeks is not closeness, but distance. He needs space to process what is happening without feeling overwhelmed by the intensity of the connection. He wants to reassure himself that he can still function independently from what his soul has recognized as deeply significant. What unfolds inside him is an inner conflict between feeling and belief, between what his heart experiences and what his mind thinks he should experience. It is also a struggle between who he is becoming through the connection and who he has always believed himself to be. This is something many people misunderstand. The more you pursue him during this phase, the more you attempt to convince him of the connection's truth, the more you activate the very defense mechanism that pushes him away. Each attempt to move closer can be unconsciously interpreted by him as proof that he is losing autonomy, becoming dependent, or showing weakness. The masculine must eventually discover through his own experience that recognizing his twin flame does not reduce his strength, it transforms it. However, this realization cannot be forced or accelerated. It must unfold in its own time, through his personal process, without pressure that would only intensify resistance. During this early stage, he may become involved with other people, immerse himself in work, or create emotional and physical distance. None of this necessarily means that he did not feel the connection. More often, it means he is trying to process something so powerful that it threatens to reshape his entire sense of identity. He is attempting to integrate an experience that does not fit the mental frameworks he has always used to understand relationships and human connection. In that moment, what he truly wants is for you to remain strong enough not to depend on his validation. He wants to see you standing firmly in your own truth so that he can step away without feeling as though he is destroying you. Because when he realizes that you remain whole and grounded even without him, he can begin to consider returning without feeling trapped by your emotional need. The second truth about masculine desire during a twin flame awakening is even more unexpected. He does not only want unconditional acceptance, he wants to be challenged. And this idea goes against much of what romantic spirituality has taught about unconditional love and total acceptance. The masculine fully awakens not in the presence of someone who simply accepts him as he is, but in the presence of someone who recognizes who he can become and refuses to accept anything less than that. When he meets his twin flame, a deep part of him realizes that this person has the rare ability to see him completely, to recognize both his light and his shadow, both his potential and his limitations. And what he truly wants, even though he may consciously resist it, is to be genuinely seen. Not idealized, not placed on a pedestal, but understood with complete clarity. He wants to encounter someone who is not deceived by his masks, his defenses, or his unconscious patterns. Someone who cares about him enough not to allow him to remain small when he was meant to grow into something greater. But there is a paradox in this. He can only accept this challenge from someone he deeply respects. And he only develops deep respect for someone who clearly demonstrates strong standards for herself. If you accept small efforts from him, if you tolerate behavior that compromises your integrity, or if you diminish yourself to fit into the limited space he offers, you lose the very quality that could inspire his awakening. The masculine within the twin flame journey seeks to be pushed toward growth. At a deep level, he wants to meet someone who acts as a mirror not only to his achievements, but also to his avoidances, not only to his strengths, but also to the patterns that must be broken. Somewhere within his soul, he desires to encounter someone strong enough not to accept his lesser versions. This does not mean becoming critical or controlling. It means maintaining clear standards for the kind of connection you are willing to accept, and having the courage to step away when those standards are not respected. It means loving deeply without losing yourself and surrendering emotionally without abandoning your own identity. When he observes this strength in you, when he sees someone who loves him but does not depend on him, something awakens within him that passive acceptance could never trigger. The masculine has long been conditioned to pursue what is challenging, what requires effort, what must be earned through real commitment. This is not superficial or immature behavior. It reflects a deep psychological structure that finds fulfillment through growth rather than comfort. When you create clear boundaries, honor your own path, and continue living your life fully, even if it means stepping away for a time, you awaken in the masculine the desire not merely to receive your love, but to become worthy of your standard. And that form of motivation can sustain him through the entire transformation process that the twin flame journey often requires. The third truth may be the most difficult to accept. During a twin flame awakening, what he truly wants is to face his own darkness completely before he can integrate his light. And this is a process you cannot rescue him from. No matter how deeply you love him or how clearly you see his potential, the masculine carries a particular shadow that often emerges when he recognizes his twin flame. This shadow includes emotional suppression, fear of vulnerability, avoidance, and superficial relationship habits that have protected him from true intimacy throughout his life. When he meets you and feels a connection he can no longer ignore, these shadow aspects can rise to the surface at the same time. He may appear more distant, more uncertain, and more contradictory than you ever expected. He may speak one way, but act differently. He may express strong love and then suddenly withdraw. He may acknowledge the connection with words, yet behave as if it is not real. None of this necessarily comes from cruelty. Often it reflects the process through which the masculine psyche attempts to integrate parts of itself that have been suppressed for many years. What he truly wants during this stage is to descend into his own emotional depths without relying on you as a constant safety net. He must confront his deepest fears. Fears of inadequacy, of not being strong enough, of not being capable of sustaining such an intense bond. He must reflect on the relationships where he avoided vulnerability, the moments when he chose safety instead of honesty, and the many masks he created to hide his insecurities. This process is rarely simple. It is not spiritual in a romantic sense. It can be chaotic, confusing, and often painful to witness. You may see the person you love behaving in ways that contradict the person you believe he truly is. You may see him sabotaging himself, choosing paths that lead toward difficulty, or resisting something that could bring him deep fulfillment. Yet there is an important truth to understand. He must make these choices himself. He must experience the consequences of denying his own inner truth. He needs to realize through personal experience that escaping the intensity of the connection does not create peace. It only creates a different form of emptiness. You cannot shorten this journey by loving him more, by being endlessly patient, or by trying to prove how perfect you are together. What he truly needs, even if he never consciously asks for it, is for you to remain whole while he navigates his own inner turmoil. He needs you to be like a lighthouse, strong enough to illuminate the path without entering the storm to rescue him. He needs you to trust that he possesses the strength required to emerge from this process transformed, even when the situation seems to suggest otherwise. This stage may last months or even years. During that time, you must continue living your life fully rather than waiting for him to finish his journey before beginning your own. You must keep growing, evolving, and becoming a more authentic version of yourself. Because when he finally emerges from that process, when he has integrated the shadow aspects he needed to face, he will look for you. And at that moment, he needs to find someone who remained strong, not someone who lost herself while waiting. The masculine within the twin flame journey also carries an ancestral fear that often appears as resistance. The fear that loving deeply will cause him to lose his mission in the world. This leads to the fourth truth that many people misunderstand about masculine desire. For centuries, masculine identity has been shaped by the idea of purpose and mission. A man has been taught that his value is measured by what he creates, what he accomplishes, and the legacy he leaves behind. When he meets his twin flame and experiences an attraction that feels greater than any personal ambition, a part of him becomes afraid. He may believe that surrendering fully to this connection will distract him from his purpose. He may worry that it will weaken him, that he will begin prioritizing the relationship over achievement, or that he will become a smaller version of who he could have been. This fear is not entirely irrational. It reflects observations of many relationships where individuals lost direction because they became emotionally dependent on each other. What he truly wants is to find a way to integrate love for his twin flame with his personal mission. He wants to discover that these two forces are not opposing, but complementary. However, he cannot simply accept this idea intellectually. He must experience it directly through real life. This is where your role becomes important, not as someone who competes with his purpose, but as someone who embodies her own purpose so strongly that he realizes love and personal mission can strengthen one another. When he sees that you have your own path, your own goals, and your own way of contributing to the world, something within him begins to relax. He understands that he does not have to choose between love and purpose. He can embrace both, but only if he connects with someone equally committed to her own growth and contribution. What he truly wants is a partner in the deepest sense of the word. Someone walking beside him toward her own potential, not someone revolving around him waiting to be included in his life. The masculine needs to feel that the woman he loves inspires him to become more, not less. He needs to sense that being with her increases his focus rather than distracting him, strengthens his character rather than weakening it, and makes him more capable of fulfilling his mission rather than less capable. And this becomes possible only when you are so committed to your own purpose that the relationship is no longer your primary source of meaning. When you live in this way, when you carry the energy of someone building something meaningful in the world, when you show that loving him does not reduce your dedication to your own path, you begin to resolve the deep internal conflict that often exists within the masculine. Through your example, you demonstrate that deep love and personal purpose can not only coexist, but can also strengthen one another. When he observes this in you, when he sees a woman who loves him deeply but does not depend on him to live a meaningful life, he can finally allow himself to enter the connection without fearing that he will lose himself in the process. Through you, he begins to see the possibility of integrating all aspects of human life, being someone who loves deeply while also contributing powerfully to the world. The fifth and deepest truth about masculine desire during a twin flame awakening is this: what he truly wants is for you to become living proof that he deserves the love his soul recognized. This truth touches the core of a masculine wound that has existed for generations. The masculine grows up in a society that links his value to performance. From an early age, he learns that he must conquer, achieve, and continually prove that he is enough. Even when he achieves success externally, a quiet question often remains within him. Am I truly worthy of being loved for who I am, not only for what I accomplish? When he meets his twin flame, this wound becomes strongly exposed because the connection cannot be earned through performance. It does not matter how much wealth he has, how successful he is professionally, or how physically attractive he may be. The twin flame connection exists at a level that goes far beyond these external measures. This can be frightening for the masculine, because it places him in unfamiliar territory. So he does not know how to deserve something that cannot be won through effort or achievement. So he responds in the only ways he knows. He may attempt to prove his worth through external actions, or he may withdraw completely because he feels unprepared to succeed within this kind of dynamic. At the deepest level of his soul, what he truly wants is to know that simply being himself is enough to deserve this extraordinary connection. He wants to discover that he does not need to conquer anything or prove anything in order to receive your love. He wants to experience being loved not for what he provides, but for who he truly is. However, he cannot easily express this need. He cannot openly say it because doing so would reveal the deepest vulnerability he carries. Instead, he tests. He tests through distance. He tests through behavior that appears to push you away. He tests to see whether your love is conditional or unconditional, whether it depends on what he does or who he is. This is where many people misunderstand the situation. They try to prove love through constant pursuit, through tolerating unhealthy behavior, or through diminishing themselves in order to protect his ego. But this approach does not heal the wound. It only reinforces the belief that love must be manipulated or controlled in order to be deserved. What truly heals this deep masculine wound is when you love his essence unconditionally while maintaining clear standards for behavior. It is when your actions communicate something powerful. I see who you truly are, and that is extraordinary. But I will not accept lesser versions of you because I know what you are capable of becoming. It means loving without neediness while still requiring integrity, without compromise. This balance is delicate. It requires you to be so firmly grounded in your own completeness that you can love without attachment, while still maintaining boundaries without rigidity. It requires seeing his potential without becoming lost in fantasies about who he might become. It requires honoring his journey while always honoring your own path first. When you are able to live within this paradox, loving his soul unconditionally while maintaining conditional standards for the relationship dynamic, something remarkable begins to happen. He can finally relax into the depth of his own vulnerability because he feels safe to be fully seen. Safe because you will not use his weaknesses against him, but also aware that you will not allow him to remain comfortably within those weaknesses. In the twin flame awakening journey, the masculine ultimately desires someone strong enough to hold space for his complete transformation. Someone who can see through all of his defenses but is not destroyed by them. Someone who believes in his potential even more than he believes in it himself, yet does not sacrifice her own integrity trying to rescue him. And when he eventually recognizes that you are that presence in his life, everything he once resisted begins to fall away. Everything he denied, everything he tried to convince himself he did not need, begins to collapse. In that moment of surrender, he finally discovers what he was searching for from the beginning. Permission to be fully human while still growing into his highest self. Permission to be vulnerable while becoming strong. Permission to need you while still remaining whole within himself. If you have reached this point in the video, you may already recognize these patterns within the dynamic you are experiencing. Perhaps you now understand why many of the things you previously tried did not work. You were attempting to give him what you believed he wanted, rather than what he truly needed in order to awaken fully. Masculine desire during a twin flame awakening is not about receiving more love, more understanding, or more acceptance. It is about encountering someone who reflects his truth so clearly that he can no longer hide from it. Someone who is so complete that he feels invited to become complete as well. Someone who loves him deeply but refuses to accept his lesser versions. And that person can only be you when you stop trying to become that person and simply allow yourself to be who you truly are in your fullest expression. When you live your own path so completely that he is no longer the center of your universe, but simply another bright presence within it. A star within a reality where you remain the center of your own life. What he truly wants is to see you living so authentically that he feels inspired to become his most authentic self as well, so that he may stand beside you. This is not a strategy. It is transformation. It is the process of becoming so fully aligned with who you are meant to be that you naturally attract only those who are ready to become who they are meant to be too. If this message resonated deeply with you, write in the comments, "I choose my own magnificence." That simple action shows that you understand this journey is not about winning someone over, but about becoming so complete that only the highest version of another person can truly connect with you. And if you would like practical guidance for navigating this complex path, there are 2 resources available. The ebook 21 Days of Transformation, inspired by the ideas of Carl Jung, and the ebook How to Manifest Your Twin Flame. You can find the links in the first pinned comment. Thank you for having the courage to explore the truth, even when it challenges long-held beliefs about love and relationships. I'll see you in the next video.